what I found interesting is, well, obviously it was two sides. It started with immediate name calling. That's part of what your clip is. And really just little bits and bites of what happened in the Oval Office. And what was shown and what people responded to was almost kind of appropriate, although not the way it was presented. But only on this show can you actually sit down and listen to what Kanye said, because all those little sound bites, all those little bits were picked from one long soliloquy, which not only does it make sense, not only is it no agenda thinking, he's even saying some things that you have specifically bitched about on this show. And it was an eye-opener. And so now I really am starting to think that certainly CNN and Don Lemon and whoever else really don't want anyone to listen to what Kanye said. And you have to listen to the whole thing. And I sat, twice. I watched this half hour just trying to understand what he was saying. And it's really not, it's actually quite smart. And it's the stuff we talk about all the time. And, if the news media, whether they're lazy and just like, it's just Kanye being crazy, and so let's just assume he's nuts, or they do not want people to know what he said. And I think that's important. I'm just going to set it up. Your clip is number 3.
I want to say this, that I think that they are a little lazy, and I don't think they care what he has to say, because if you're on the globalist side of the debate, all this stuff is nuts.
John, if they don't care, why didn't they just marginalize him and just not talk about him? Why all the outrage? Why the insane conversations about him?
That's the dynamics of the news business. Somebody, if one person makes a big stink about it, he's also a target. Kanye's an important celebrity, and he's in there violating the unspoken black rule. Okay, go on. Right. I'm just saying, I think it just became a story.
I think there's a story here. We'll start with pretty much CNN, Wolf Blitzer. This is part of the clip everyone's seen with Don Lemon. I just wanted to pay attention to what snippets they pull out to discuss with their panel about what Kanye was saying and doing in the Oval Office. So here is their little edit.
If he don't look good, we don't look good. This is our president. He has to be the freshest, the flyest planes, the best factories, and we have to make our core be empowered. We have to bring jobs into America. I don't answer questions in simple sound bites. You are tasting a fine wine. It has multiple notes to it. The liberal will try to control a black person through the concept of racism because they know that we are very proud, emotional people. So when I said I like Trump to like someone that's liberal, they'll say, oh, but he's racist. You think racism can control me? Oh, that don't stop me. That's an invisible wall. Would you build a trap door that if you mess up and you accidentally something happens, you fall and you end up next to the Unabomber? Let me give this guy a hug right here.
Now, when you hear this sequence, and of course, my ears perked up mainly because he said, you fall through a trap door and you land next to the Unabomber. I'm like, wow. This
professor.
It sounds completely unhinged the way they've put this together. And what was kind of like a double wink, I think, is when Kanye says, I'm like a fine wine. You got to all these different notes. I don't have that in one of my clips. What he actually said was,
he said it in there.
That he said, but he said what he said before that was, I don't speak in sound bites. I'm like a fine. So
now you do.
That's exactly what happened. So now they bring in Don Lemon to discuss this, and Don says exactly what I thought.
I love this guy right here. Yeah, come here. Yes.
He did most of the talking in the Oval Office. Don, what did you think?
Wolf, I have no animosity for Kanye West. I'm just going to be honest, and I may get in a lot of trouble for it. I actually feel bad for him. What I saw was a minstrel show today. Him in front of all of these white people, mostly white people.
Now, let's just discuss for a second minstrel show. This is, in essence, calling him an Uncle Tom. Am I correct in...
Worse.
Now, minstrel shows, I believe, were white people who put on... although it did also include black people. It was white.
Actually began with black people putting on blackface. If you saw the Broadway play Shuffle Along,
you know about this. This is the Al Jolson time, right? You know about this stuff.
This is pre Al Jolson.
All right.
if you saw this, the minstrel shows were black people putting on blackface and playing blacks.
Stupid blacks, exaggerated stupidness. Yeah.
And they would do a whole routine. It was a very interesting era.
Was it funny?
And then the whites said, "Hey, we can do the same thing," and so they put on the blackface, and they got they could go to better venues, and so pretty soon the blacks were marginalized. But it's an insult, is what it is. It's a big insult. And they don't even, of course, they failed to mention the whole time that Jim Brown.
I got Jim Brown. I got Jim Brown.
Jim Brown is one of the most famous black men in history, recent history, for his exploits as probably the greatest running back in the history of football, and he was a famous actor.
I have some Jim Brown clips from this meeting as well, because this was a very...
the way I understand it, Jim Brown never said anything.
Jim Brown said several things.
I was misled.
I you know what? I'll do Jim Brown right now for you. So here's it. Now he doesn't speak very loudly, old Jim Brown, but here's what he said.
It's my honor, Jim. I want to tell you, I've been a fan of yours for a long time. And nobody like you. Nobody like you. No athlete like you.
Well, you know why I'm here? I'm here to serve.
Yeah, it's really nice, man.
I'm not here to ask for anything. I'm here to contribute.
And, that's always been the way Jim has been.
So Jim Brown, which I think is a nice statement, says, "I'm here to serve. I'm not asking for anything. I'm here to help out. Tell me how I can help, Mr. President." Gee, you didn't see that on TV? Jim Brown also had something to say.
I was misled.
Also had something to say about North Korea.
It's great to have you, Jim.
It's good to be here, Mr. President.
It's great to be with you. These are two friends of mine, and Kanye has been a friend of mine for a long time. And Jim came out of nowhere, and he said, "I like what the president's doing." A long time ago, we met, right? And I just appreciate it.
Jim Brown, Uncle Tom!
Very much. And
try saying that
if you look at the employment numbers, if you look at the median income, if you look at every single indicator, we're keeping our promise to you.
You're right. Fantastic. But I like the North Korea thing.
I like North Korea too.
You're a strong man.
Yeah. Well, he's turned out to be good. Dialogue. We had a little dialogue.
Oh, yeah.
So, C-SPAN had the best audio. Their audio guys are pretty good. Damn cameras are making a huge racket. So first he says, "I like North Korea guy," I think he says. Says, "Yeah, this is very good. This is good dialogue," Jim Brown says. He's encouraging the president. There's good dialogue.
And the Secretary of State just came back. Mike just came back from North Korea. We had very good meetings, and we'll meet again, but we're doing good. No more nuclear testing, no more missiles
Trump's got to take his little credits here.
Going up, no more nothing.
Yeah.
That's okay.
And that was headed to war.
So Jim Brown says, "Looks like we were almost in war."
To me, it seemed like it was that close.
Yep, it was so close.
Scared to death.
I spoke to President Obama. I will tell you that was headed to war. And now it's going to be, I believe it's going to work out very well.
And stop the war.
We will stop. We will save millions of lives. Seoul has 30 million people.
Yeah, I left this in just so you could hear that Trump was, he was pontificating.
Realize how big. 30 million people right near the border, 30 miles off the border. Yeah. Millions of people would have been killed. And I don't say anything solved.
We solved one of his biggest problems.
Yeah.
We solved one of the biggest problems.
Yeah.
Jim Brown says, "We solved one of the biggest problems." All right, so you didn't see that on the news. Why would you? It's just Jim Brown. He doesn't matter. His opinion doesn't matter. And I love being able to do this. And this is going to be a little longer than normal, just because we can't do what the mainstream media did with Kanye, is chop him into bits, because then you don't understand what he's saying. Once you understand what he's saying, then we never have to do it again. But let's go back.
Do you think that there's a connection between the bone saw references and chopping people into bits and chopping Kanye into bits?
I sure hope not, because I believe that he is purposely being suppressed with what he's saying, because it's very important what he's saying. So I fear for his life.
They don't want the black community to hear it.
Kanye West. I'm just going to be honest, and I may get in a lot of trouble for it. I actually feel bad for him. What I saw was a minstrel show today. Him in front of all of these white people, mostly white people, embarrassing himself and embarrassing Americans, but mostly African Americans, because every one of them is sitting either at home or with their phones watching this, cringing. I couldn't even watch it. I had to turn the television off because it was so hard to watch.
Okay. So because Don just couldn't watch it, the journalist that he is, he missed, I guess, what Kanye was actually saying and just has an opinion without having watched it. And anyone at home, any African American with a phone is disgusted, is horrified by this. So I went to what?
Just quick. Zephyr just went by. Okay, go on.
And only you can do that, John.
Sorry. Just so people can write down the time.
Every black American with a phone was embarrassed by this. So I went to my favorite Opus One YouTube channel, which has 1.2 million subscribers. It is my go-to. It is a black YouTube channel. Let's pull up a couple of clips real briefly. Here's Shabazz, the OG Shabazz.
Yizzo, what's poppin'?
What's poppin', bro?
I'm not even making no statement. I'm going to ask a couple questions. Is the disdain with Kanye about what he says? Meaning, is he lying about things that he say? Is he not making sense? Do we have a problem with what he's saying? Or is the major problem the fact that he has aligned himself and continues to put himself in the presence and in the midst of Donald Trump? What's the real issue with Kanye?
So that's one voice. Let's hear from another fine black American.
Peace, family. Brother Reeves Islam here. While I'm studying this interview with Kanye West and Donald Trump, I want us to understand something. Do not allow the hat to mislead you. Do not allow that to mislead you. Do not allow him saying, oh, I love Trump and all this dancing and samboing and shucking and jiving to mislead you. Remember, there is a strategy when it comes to dealing with the system of white supremacy. There's a strategy when it comes to this. Remember the spook who sat by the door. Remember Nat Turner. There was a system. So what if Kanye is finessing the president? What if he is finessing the White House? What if he is saying he's going to pretend to do all of this nonsense and look like one of the worst goddamn hypocrites on the planet just so that he can gain his access? Because now the president has given him the presidential stamp of approval. Donald Trump told him that he could speak on his behalf wherever and whenever. He wants to get Larry Hoover brought out of prison. What would that do for Chicago? He wants to go after other political prisoners. What would that do?
So there's a name I hadn't heard, and it came up with a couple of real gangsters on this Opus One YouTube channel. They heard him talk about it.
I just wanted to say, Kanye West is not crazy. He sat in front of the president of the United States and said, free Larry Hoover. Y'all niggas is pussy. Kanye West said, free Larry Hoover. Yeah, nigga, free. Yo, I'm from East St. Louis, Illinois. Kanye West said free Larry Hoover to Donald Trump. Yeah. And y'all niggas is mad at him? Yeah. And y'all niggas is coming at that nigga? Y'all niggas is stupid. Every celebrity that's coming at Kanye West is stupid. He might be a little off. Yeah. He really might be a little off in some shit. But free Larry Hoover. Man, free Larry, man. Free Larry, man. Y'all niggas fucked up. Y'all niggas really need to check yourselves, man.
All right, so we will get into who Larry Hoover is after we go back to the incredible disdain from CNN in particular. Which clip did you have now, John?
Well, I have the clip where just another one of the many. I had a choice of a bunch of clips, but the one which I thought was the absolute worst, which was a low point at CNN, where a black analyst, one of the many that they have on their roster, comes out and just lays into Kanye in the worst possible way.
And this is a grand display of mass ignorance in the face of the downfall of democracy. And we have a white and a black man joined together at the narcissistic hip who refuse to understand that they are more a roadblock than a road to real democracy in our country. This is white supremacy by ventriloquism. A black mouth is moving, but white racist ideals are flowing from Kanye West's mouth. Yeah. Kanye West is engaging in one of the most nefarious practices yet. A black body and brain are the warehouse for the articulation and expression of anti-black sentiments that have been chin-checked by people with far more rigorous credentials.
Now, I don't know about you, and I have no standing being a white American, but I heard Black America talk on the Opus One channel, and I'd say this guy is the Uncle Tom.
Well, he's obviously a stooge for the CNN white management. It's not run by a white guy. I mean, a black guy. It's run by a white guy.
So I'll go back to Don Lemon, because I think he really set the tone. He is the voice of Black America now, according to
him.
According to him. Just so you can hear how he shames Kanye, because of course he's crazy. I think Don Lemon kind of started the Kanye is mentally ill vibe. We'll just go back to that, and then we'll get into what Kanye actually said.
Him sitting there being used by the President of the United States, the President of the United States exploiting him, and I don't mean this in a disparaging way,
sure,
exploiting someone who needs help, who needs to back away from the cameras, who needs to get off stage, who needs to deal with his issues. And if anyone around him cares about him, the family that he mentioned today, or whomever, his managers, maybe some other people who are in the music business who know him, they need to grab him and snatch him up and get Kanye together, because Kanye needs help. And this has nothing to do...
And but Don is giving white America and white news cable show America license to repeat this, which is what happened incessantly over the weekend.
With being liberal or conservative. This is to do with honesty. And we have to stop pretending, sitting here on these CNN panels or on whatever network panels, and pretending like this is normal. And let's have this conversation about Kanye West and what he said. Who cares? Why are you sending cameras to the Oval Office for Kanye West? Did you send cameras to the Oval Office and carry it live?
Actually, I didn't clip that, but there's a part where Trump said, everyone wanted to be here, and the press is in there on video saying, yeah, we wanted to see this. We didn't want to see any other meeting. So yeah, of course they wanted that. It's crazy town.
When Common visited the White House and did a beautiful poem. Spoken word.
A poem.
Talked about how black people are kings and queens. How we need to
that's what we need.
Rise up and do better. He didn't disparage anybody.
Yeah, I don't hear the kids on Opus 1 talking about Common and his poem.
He didn't
Hold on a second. Stop. Back it up a little bit. He's talking about Common and his poem, like, okay. Then he said he didn't disparage anybody. Did Kanye disparage people?
No, I do not believe so in everything I've seen. No.
Well, then what's he talking about?
It's the same. Well, Trump is a racist, disparages.
All right, go.
Beautiful poem. Spoken word. It talked about how black people are kings and queens, how we need to rise up and do better. He didn't disparage anybody. He didn't speak in non sequiturs. He didn't do anything awful. And the only people who criticized him and the only people who really covered it were Sean Hannity and his band of hypocrites who are now applauding Kanye West, the same people that many in that group called the N-word because of Taylor Swift and because of George Bush. And now all of a sudden,
he's rambling.
Yeah, he's going to wrap it up. But he just has to get one more insult.
The person who represents the African-American community, he doesn't. We need to take the cameras away from Kanye and from a lot of this craziness that happens in the White House, because it is not normal, and we need to stop sitting here pretending that it's normal. This was an embarrassment. Kanye's mother is rolling over in her grave.
Oh, yeah, that's the lowest. Now you can't go much lower than that.
Recently, didn't she?
Yeah, and it affected him a lot. So good work, Don Lemon. I'm revoking.
Why is Don Lemon even working at this operation?
Because he's the guy that will set the tone that is desired. I can't see it any other way. That is the desired tone. He's black, therefore he has standing. He can say whatever he wants.
He's gay, which is a plus.
Super plus, exactly. Okay, so the backdrop is we've got Jim Brown sitting there. And all that conversation with Jim Brown that happened mainly in the beginning, before Kanye even got into his, because that launched pretty quick. But the first 5 minutes, just Jim Brown talking about North Korea and Trump and just want to be here to serve, Mr. President. And then Kanye, he's not there alone. No, he has Larry Hoover's lawyer with him. Jared's also in this meeting, which no one mentioned. Larry Hoover was arrested in Chicago for drugs. And initially it was just a minor offense, but then after 17 years, he was rearrested because apparently he had not only run a criminal gang from jail, but he had called out a hit on some rival gang member who was killed. And then he got a 6-time life sentence. But in the 17 years after the initial incarceration, he was really organizing Chicago, and he was trying to better his life. I wasn't there. I'm just telling you what the story is on Larry Hoover. And so then he got, the guy's now 68 and has been in jail for quite a while. And you hear that black kids on the YouTube Opus One channel, they know who Larry Hoover is. They see him as some kind of hero. Is it because he was a drug dealer, or was it because he was trying to do something good? And this is why Kanye is actually there, which is not mentioned. We know that Kim Kardashian successfully got someone out of jail, pardoned, the woman who was on a minor drug offense. So now let's pick up the story at the beginning of this meeting.
Yeah, we got Larry Hoover's lawyer with us today, and it's a prisoner that we're focused on. He has 6 life sentences, and they have him next to the Unabomber doing 23 and 1s.
So now you know the reference to the Unabomber. He's in the same facility as
so they
Ted
take that
Kaczynski.
completely out of context. And by the way, there was no mention of Larry Hoover on any of the CNN reports.
You think? No, it's more important to show Don Lemon saying his mom is rolling over in her grave. Larry Hoover is an interesting story. I've never heard of Larry Hoover. I'm just learning about it.
That means
What did he do, Larry? What did he do?
Why is he in?
Yes, tell us.
Allegedly, it's for conspiracy from
This is Hoover's lawyer.
Prison, from state prison. It's alleged. But we do believe, even if he did commit those crimes, the sentence was overly broad and too
What was the sentence?
6 consecutive life sentences in the most secure prison in the world, also known as a clean version of hell, for basically an economic crime.
What prison is that? Name the prison.
ADX Supermax in Florence, Colorado. They house the Unabomber, Al-Qaeda operatives, mass killers, Oklahoma City bomber, things of that nature.
How old is he? How old?
68.
He's 68 years old?
Yeah, 68 years old.
Really, the reason why they imprisoned him is because he started doing positive for the community. He started showing that he actually had power, that he wasn't just one of a monolithic voice, but he could wrap people around. So there's theories that there's infinite amounts of universe and there's alternate universe. So it's very important for me to get Hoover out, because in an alternate universe, I am him.
Now, this may sound unhinged, but we have spoken about this specifically. Alternate universes, and yes, in a different dimension, I think would be more correct. In scientific terms, I'm you and you're me. There's a dimension where that's taking place. Isn't that the theory of quantum something?
Well, actually, the theory is there's probably an infinite number of
Correct.
things that can be going on.
Right.
And every decision you make could have gone off in a different direction, and it actually has.
So this is a almost a religious philosophy Kanye has, which he's mentioned multiple times, of course, is laughed at. I don't laugh because we talk about alternate universes in a different context, but not that dissimilar. What he's saying is, in some other universe, I'm in jail and he's me, and I have a duty to go and help this guy. It's just a humanity thing, but it's Kanye, so you have to think and listen to what the guy's saying.
And I have to go and get him free, because he was doing positive inside of Chicago, just like how I'm moving back to Chicago, and it's not just about...
I didn't know Kanye was moving back to Chicago.
Yeah, that was mentioned.
Yeah, but it was news that he was moving back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
getting on stage and being an entertainer and having a monolithic voice that's forced to be a specific party. People expect that if you're black, you have to be Democrat. I've had conversations that basically said that welfare is the reason why a lot of black people end up being Democrat. They say,
now you got to stay with him. That's why it doesn't work when it's chopped up. So he's segueing into something else, but it all comes around at the end with a mind-blowing reveal.
First of all, it's a limit to amount of jobs. So the fathers lose the jobs, and they say, we'll give you more money for having more kids in your home. And then we got rid of the mental health institutes in the 80s and the 90s, and the prison rates just shot up.
Have we not discussed that specifically?
Yeah, we discussed Reagan shutting down the ones in the 80s.
Yeah,
in California, because it was a demand of the. I would, just as a reminder, I keep telling the same stories.
Yeah, no,
I was here during that era. I was going to high school and college, and I remember the era because it was the liberals going, oh, my God, these mental health facilities. And they always cite Agnew State Hospital in San Jose. Or they're horrible. And then when the One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest movie came out, oh, they're horrible. We got to shut them down. It's terrible. This is not the way to treat the mentally ill. And so Reagan comes in as a Republican. He says, that's what you guys want? Okay, we're shutting them down. And they shut all of them down. And then there's been nothing but complaining ever since.
And the part that you and I have never been able to come up with, because we're not black, is that black arrests shot through the roof because of this. And so bear in mind the Unabomber, all the stuff, it comes to the end with Kanye.
Black people end up being Democrat. They say, first of all, it's a limit to amount of jobs. So the fathers lose the jobs, and they say, we'll give you more money for having more kids in your home. And then we got rid of the mental health institutes in the 80s and the 90s, and the prison rates just shot up. And now you have Chirac, what people call Chirac, which is actually our murder rate is going down by 20% every year. I just talked to the superintendent, met with Michael Sachs, that's Rom's right-hand man.
Oh, my God. They met with him? They must be crazy. Why'd they entertain that fool?
So I think it's the bravery that helps you beat this game called life. They tried to scare me to not wear this hat, my own friends, but this hat, it gives me power in a way. My dad and my mom separated, so I didn't have a lot of male energy in my home. And also, I'm married to a family that, not a lot of male energy going on. It's beautiful, though.
Of course, he's kind of winking to Bruce Jenner there. I mean, Caitlyn. So I understand where he's coming from. I didn't have a lot of male energy in my household. So I hear what he's saying. When you put it all together, what he said, this next bit becomes relevant.
But there's times where, it's something about, I love Hillary. I love everyone, right? But the campaign, I'm with her, just didn't make me feel as a guy that didn't get to see my dad all the time, like a guy that could play catch with his son.
Now, is this not something we explicitly discussed when that slogan came up? I'm with her. It's like, that's kind of alienating.
We discussed the fact that I'm with her is not a campaign.
And to Kanye, it meant, well, I don't feel good about that. I want to be with daddy. He's literally saying that. And I can understand that he felt that way. This is not a crazy thing to say. And he said, I love Hillary, but I didn't like that. I didn't feel good about it. I didn't want to be with her. I missed the male energy in his life or in the world, whatever it is.
It was something about when I put this hat on, it made me feel like Superman. You made a Superman. That's my favorite superhero. And you made a Superman cape for me also as a guy that looks up to you, looks up to Ralph Lauren, looks up to American industry guys. Non-political, no bullshit. Put the beep on it, however you want to do it, 5 seconds delay, and just goes in and gets it done. Right now, you gave me the heart to go to Adidas because
now, it sounds like he's just talking self-promotion about himself when he talks about Adidas and his shoe deal.
Let it play.
Okay, good.
At Adidas, when I went in 2015, we were a $14 billion company losing $2 billion a year. Now we have a $38 billion market cap. It's called the Yeezy effect.
This guy's clearly mentally insane. He knows market caps. I mean, he's got to be a nut job.
And I went to Casper. We had a meeting in Chicago.
Mattress company.
And I said, you have to bring manufacturing onshore, not even shore, into the core. It's not about the borders, the core of Adidas. And Chicago is the core of Middle America. We have to make Middle America strong. So I had the balls, because I had enough balls to put on this hat. I mean, this Adidas thing made me a billionaire, and I could have lost $200 million walking away from that deal. But even with that, I knew it was more important for me to take the chance of walking away from that deal than to have no fathers in Chicago with no homes. And when we do have prison reformation, because it's habilitation, not rehabilitation, because we didn't have the abilities in the first place. We never had anyone that taught us. We didn't teach us. Exactly, we ain't had no one to taught us.
So there's something very important what he says there. He's mimicking what black Americans will say. Well, nobody taught us because our dads went there. He's mimicking that, but he's saying some good stuff.
Right? So it's more important than any specific deal, anything that we bring jobs into America and that we provide a transition with mental health and the American education curriculum that Jim has worked on. Larry Hoover also has a curriculum that he's worked on. We have Montessori curriculums that we worked on. WeWorks has a beautiful curriculum. The Waldorf establishment has a curriculum. We have meditation. There's a lot of things affecting our mental health that makes us do crazy things that puts us back into that trap door called the 13th Amendment.
Now, this blew me the fuck away. I'm sorry to use that word. When he said the trap door of the 13th Amendment, I'm like, what is he talking about? Let's not give it away. We'll read the 13th Amendment in a moment after Kanye gets to it.
I did say abolish with the hat on, because why would you keep something around that's a trap door? If you build in a floor, the Constitution is the base of our industry, right? Of our country, of our company. Would you build a trap door that if you mess up and you accidentally something happens, you fall and you end up next to the Unabomber?
Okay. The 13th Amendment, for those who don't know what it is or those who have forgotten, the 13th Amendment, Section 1, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. So, what that means is, and you've brought this up, we've bitched about this many times, that in the United States, slavery is legal. If you're incarcerated, you become a slave of the state. And you're making 25 cents a day, and you're working for IKEA, you're working for... how many?
Right, which is again, the famous Dutch saying, I am what I say you are.
Wat je zegt ben jezelf, met je kop door de helft.
Which is what we do with China. We constantly harp on, China's got slave labor. They have all these prisoners, they're slave labor. We're the ones that have actual corporations that are involved. that are involved in slave labor in the prison system. There's corporations you can invest in that benefit from the slave labor of our prison system.
And as I said, companies like...
By the way, just to stop again, I don't mind the prisoners being forced to do stuff like clean up the roads. Maybe there's like the litter on along Highway 80 in California. There's a bunch of litter and nobody picks it up. I don't mind putting a chain gang out there, but you have to pay them.
Yes, and what is happening, as you said, there are companies, and I'm pretty sure when you brought it up, IKEA was one of the companies, or they were making flat pack furniture, all kinds of stuff. And American corporations go to the Correctional Corporation of America and hire this labor force. And so Kanye is saying that the 13th Amendment has a trap door because, yes, while it says no one can be a slave, but if you mess up, and he's going to explain exactly how cruel this really was, if you mess up, then you fall through the trap door right into slavery because of the 13th Amendment's trap door, which is you can be a slave in the United States if you're incarcerated for a crime you've been convicted of.
You got to remove all that trap door out of the relationship. The four gentlemen that wrote the 13th Amendment, and I think the way the universe works, it's perfect. We don't have 13 floors, do we? So the four gentlemen that wrote the 13th Amendment didn't look like the people they were amending. Also, at that point, it was illegal for blacks to read or African Americans to read. And so that meant if you actually read the amendment, you get locked up and turned to a slave. Again, so what I think is we don't need...
He's crazy, I tell you. He doesn't know what he's talking about. His mom's rolling over in her grave.
We need pardons. We need to talk to people. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I was connected with a neuropsychologist that works with the athletes in the NBA and the NFL. And he looked at my brain. It's equal on 3 parts. I'm going to go ahead, drop some bombs for you. 98 percentile IQ test. I had a 75 percentile of all human beings, but it was counting 8 numbers backwards after it was repeating. So I'm going to work on that one. The other one's 98% Tesla, Freud.
Tesla intelligence, man. He had it measured. He's genius, and it's obvious he's genius because
you could see Trump liking this guy. They're very similar.
So he's going to wrap it up with this whole 13th Amendment thing and Larry Hoover and everything and that's really the whole thing. It's just almost done.
So he said that I actually wasn't bipolar. I had sleep deprivation, which could cause dementia 10 to 20 years from now, where I wouldn't even remember my son's name. So all this power that I got, and I'm taking my son to the Sox game and all that, I wouldn't be able to remember his name from a misdiagnosis. And what we need is we can empower the pharmaceuticals and make more money. That's one thing. I've never stepped into a situation where I didn't make people more money. So we can empower pharmaceuticals. We can empower our industries. We can empower our factories. We can bring not only Adidas on shore, we can bring Foxconn to set up a factory in, I think, Minnesota. 53,000.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, in Wisconsin. They have 4,000 jobs, people making $53,000 a year. And one of the things we got to set is Ford to have the highest design, the dopest cars, the most amazing. I don't really say dope. I don't say negative words and try to flip them. We just say positive, lovely, divine, universal words. So the flyest, freshest, most amazing car. And what we want to start with is I brought a gift with me right here.
He says GIF. He means a GIF. And so now this is the famous, he's opening his cell phone. But you hear what he's saying. We need to have the flyest stuff. It's all got to be the best in America.
This right here is the iPlane 1. It's a hydrogen-powered airplane. And this is what our president should be flying in. Look at this, Jared.
Look at this, Jared. So he hands his iPhone to Jared. Jared's like, ooh.
Let's get rid of Air Force One. Can we get rid of Air Force One? No? You don't like that?
Well, we're going to have Apple, an American company, work on this plane with. But you know what I don't like about...
Here comes the end.
I don't like. What I need Saturday Night Live to improve on, and what I need the liberals to improve on is, if he don't look good, we don't look good. This is our president. He has to be the freshest, the flyest planes, the best factories, and we have to make our core be empowered. We have to bring jobs into America because our best export is entertainment and ideas. But when we make everything in China and not in America, then we're cheating on our country. And we're putting people in positions to have to do illegal things to end up in the cheapest factory ever, the prison system.
There you go. The cheapest factory ever, the prison system. I think Kanye is a prophet.
I think definitely has the bipolar thing. He's manic. I think it was a Shaggy Dog story.
Yep.
With a punchline. It was very well done. I think he could have left the plane thing out. I think that hurt him.
Well, the whole way he speaks hurts him because it's so clip-worthy for just these little clips of him sounding insane. I would love to get
a hold of that thing and clip it together to make him sound like a complete lunatic.
Well, just listen to CNN today. You'll be fine.
Well, I know. I think that they probably could have done even better a job.
Yeah, well, they had to do it quick. They had to do it quick.
Yeah, I mean, if you spend a little time, you could really have something very funny. But yeah, I think the guy is a genius. I've always thought he was. I think Taylor Swift's a genius.
Yeah.
These people that do this sort of marketing and they market themselves a lot and they do investments. P. Diddy's another one, whatever his name is nowadays.
Sean Combs.
Yeah, he's another one. These guys are extremely intelligent. They really know how to do marketing and they know how to invest. None of them are poor. And they don't seem to be getting poor. I mean, compared with the same kind of professional athletes that don't have quite the intelligence, not to say that most of them don't, some of them do, but when they have a lot of money, they end up broke. Right. These guys will never end up broke. I mean, if they do, it's because they gave it away, but not because it was stolen from them.
So in review, people really got gypped, sorry to use that term, shortchanged on what Kanye did. And certainly the black Americans got shortchanged by the news media who was supposed to be serving them. Could someone have just listened and don't even show a clip, just say, well, he was talking about the 13th Amendment, Larry Hoover, and how really Democrats agree on that there's too many people in prisons. But no, they don't want black people to hear what Kanye has to say. I'm glad. I learned a lot. I went to Opus One. I'm like, oh, what is this? This is how I learned this stuff. No, that can't be done by Don Lemon, who had to turn the sound down because he was so offended. That's offensive. That's actually racist. It's like keeping the black man down. Way to go, Don. And everybody did it. It was
their job.
It was unbelievable.
Well, black man keeps himself down a lot of times. When we lost our one of our listeners, the Incognegro.
Yeah, we lost him.
Because he was irked by a deconstruction we did, which was critical of Hillary.
Well,
so
that had nothing to do with race then. Anyway.
No, but it has to do with what Kanye was talking about, which is that if you're black, you have to be a Democrat.
Anyway, I fear for Kanye because it's so easy to get rid of this guy. I don't think they have to do it now because they've marginalized him. But, you know, when you hear these kids on YouTube, that's 1.2 million subscribers. You know, people may just start to listen. I fear for Kanye. If he keeps this up and people start listening to him, it could be bad for his health.
Yeah, but they've done a good job of. I think they've kept him safe. They're keeping him safe.
We're actually endangering him, but I feel pretty good about it. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your courage and say in the morning to you, John C., where the C stands for Combs Dvorak.
In the morning to you, Mr. Adam Curry. In the morning to all ships at sea.
Boots on the ground, feet in the air, subs in the water today, Mr. Knights out there.
In the morning to our troll room, NoAgendaStream.com is where the trolls line up and get ready for every single show live. NoAgendaStream.com. You can actually listen live on Sundays and Thursdays.